Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I couldn't dial in on my computer. It kept saying ID expired. Is there a reason why I can't sign in on my computer?
I have no idea. Everybody else seems to be able to.
Well, it kept giving me a, let's see if it'll come up now. Just click here to join. It wants a meeting ID and it says webinar has expired.
You're probably on the wrong one.
You realize you're on right now, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it on my computer, but it won't let me.
Oh, are you on your phone?
Yes.
You're probably on an old one.
Well, it's the one you sent me.
I mean, if you like, I can send you the link again.
Please do.
Good evening.
Hi, Rita.
This is Sonia's husband, Michael. I'm stepping out of the
Hi.
way. She's about to get in. IT support, you know how that goes.
Yes, thank you for helping her.
Here she is. Say hi to everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Mom.
Who was that, Lola? Who was that? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, looks like we've got quorum. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I'd like to welcome everyone and call this regular meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee on this April 21st, 2021, calling it to order. Maureen, could you please go ahead and do roll call?
Sure. I've lost the screen now. Hold on. Come on. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Member Strom,
Here.
Member Dickerson,
Here.
Member Johnson,
Here.
Member Underwood,
Present.
and Chair Bowden.
Here.
Member Frangipane,
Here.
and that's everybody. You've got a quorum.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Before we get started, I wanted to do two things. Number one, I need to amend the agenda. In your agenda packet was an EAB communications plan that was provided to us by the city. And the communications department has updated that. And so we've invited Vanessa Davis from the communications team to present that to us today. So I would like to move item number 6, the communications subcommittee update, up to right after the public forum. That way Vanessa doesn't have to sit through all of our meeting. And in addition to that, and for unfinished business, I would like to add a new A for the off-leash task force update. We have an update from that committee that we want to share with everybody. And that is it. Oh, and then also I wanted to thank we had 3 committee members that were up for a renewal as members of the committee, and they've all decided to renew. So thank you for doing that. And I'm very pleased that you'll continue to work with us. So first on the agenda will be the approval of minutes from our March meeting. Would someone please move to approve? Thank you, Cara. Is there a second?
approve.
Sonia. I looked at you and said Cara. So we have a first and the first is Sonia. We need a second. Thank you, Carson. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from our March meeting? Doesn't look like anyone, so looks like we can go ahead and vote to approve those minutes. Those in favor of approving the minutes as distributed, please raise your hand as an aye. And it looks like we have, I can't see, okay, Cara, we can't see you.
Aye.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Maureen.
Got it.
So, third on the agenda is the public forum. Do we have anyone attending for the public forum?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, great. Well,
Well,
then,
let me make sure real quick here.
you bet.
I do not see any attendees.
Great. So Monica, I'm going to turn this next section over to you for the communications subcommittee update. Again, you all received in your packet an EAB communications plan, and that's been refined. And Vanessa Davis from the communications department is going to present that for us. If you want to introduce Vanessa, Monica?
Yes. Vanessa is part of the communications team at the city, and we've been meeting bi-weekly with her and Chris Harguth and Dave Lee to put into action our media plan for this year, but specifically we've been very focused on the Emerald Ash Borer campaign. They've done some great messaging. They've built up our website, and the wheels are starting to turn on this project. So Vanessa is really good at articulating and what the city plan is, as well as in taking in information from us. And so I just kind of wanted her to present what the city has done, but also for her to get up a little bit of a pulse on your reaction to what she has to say, because she's been extremely responsive and helpful in this process. So Vanessa, are you ready to share?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Would you like me to share my screen with the updated one, or I can just go over? Because what I think you all have is close to updated.
Well, if you can show us what you have most recently,
Yep.
and that would be the best. Thank you.
And just so you know, Vanessa, we did distribute the updated plan yesterday to the
Okay.
committee members, just so that they had a piece of paper in front of them when you talked.
Mike, can you help me get the screen back on? Henry walked across everything and now everything's black.
Yeah, you're not muted.
Don't let him.
Well, I moved him once and then he did it again.
Sonia, you're not muted.
And now I don't have any sound.
We can hear you. Vanessa, are you able to share your screen?
Yes. Sorry, I just didn't know if you wanted me to pause a second. I'm happy to share my screen right now.
The
Okay. So this is the Emerald Ash Borer plan. Kind of what we're going for is to continue with bi-weekly communication. So every other week, a post will go out on social media, and it will go across all of our channels. And I can dive into that in a little bit. So the biggest purpose of the EAB campaign is to help residents identify if they have an ash tree and what their options are going forward if they do. So our biggest goals is definitely for the residents to decide whether they want to treat or replace the ash tree. A big challenge we are facing is there's been a little bit of a crying wolf scenario with the Emerald Ash Borer. Is it coming? Is it not coming? It's here, it's here. Well, now it is here. So we have to kind of overcome that challenge of making residents take it seriously now that it really is in the northern Denver suburbs. And it's very important that our residents do take action sooner rather than later. So in the campaign, there'll be 3 main categories that we will continuously hit back on as the campaign continues from April now until, right now it's indefinite. The first is to help residents identify if they have an ash tree. That's number 1. The number 2 is to help residents decide, do they want to treat their tree or replace it? The third is really helping residents identify the emerald ash borer and damage, but I have learned since working with Julie and Monica and Dave, if a tree has damage, it's really too far gone, sadly. So if you see damage, it means that tree is probably sadly already lost to the EAB, unfortunately. So what we've been doing is we've been updating the website with having more information on it, making sure that the landing page is really a resource for our community, that we're driving them to, that they can see really the issues that the EAB presents and also solutions to that problem. And that includes, we're getting an updated list of licensed arborists in Inglewood to highlight local businesses, but also ones that have been licensed to work in Inglewood as well. Along with the website, we created a Bang the Table. This is Inglewood's new community engagement platform, and we have a platform there that talks about the EAB as well. It's also a great place for residents to ask questions too, and we've included a map that if residents feel inclined to, they can add their tree to the map, so we can really start to track where all the ash trees are in the community. So to ensure that we hit everyone, because I will go over, so first with social media, yes, we are posting every other week, and it's really, the beginning is just to raise awareness of the EAB, to bring it back into the forefront of people's minds. And then it's really to help people as spring comes, people will be able to see their trees if they're not familiar with an ash tree. We're also sending them to 2 free apps that they can download where there are people that help and they can identify, I think it's like a 96% that people can help say, oh, that is an ash tree. No, that's not. And so we're going to really break it down for residents to hopefully be able to identify, do they have an ash tree? Because that's really number 1. And then we will reiterate again to tear out or to treat. We are focusing more on treating, and that's what we really want to encourage residents to do, because we'd hate to lose so many beautiful mature trees in Inglewood. And our other ways to make sure this communications plan is not just for people that are on the internet, but also we are going to be doing door hangers to the homes in Inglewood that's going to break down what an ash tree leaflet looks like, what an EAB looks like, and it also is going to have a QR code that sends people to the Emerald Ash Borer landing page on our website. Along with that, the Parks Department has been out and about. They're wrapping trees that say the slogan for the EAB campaign, which the slogan is, "It's your ash, Inglewood." So the slogan is on those tree wraps along with that same QR code. So residents can just come up, scan that QR code, and again, it goes to the landing page. And we are making videos to show people how to do that as well. The article was in the Spring Citizens magazine, and it's reinforced in this upcoming Summer Citizen magazine as well. It is also going out in all of our e-newsletters, along with the printed e-citizen newsletter that's distributed to the Rec Center and Malley. And we are also in contact with the Inglewood Herald. We're waiting because we're trying to pitch them a story to get it in the Inglewood Herald as well. And then further down, you can just see some more of our messaging that we're going with. Initial was the announcement that went live 2 weeks ago. The tree wraps QR code video will go live tomorrow. And again, we're just trying to reiterate to people to keep this top of mind. So that's why every 2 weeks we will post. And then sometime later, it'll be a reiteration. So then in May, we're hoping more trees will have leaves in early May to help people identify, but we're also breaking down a way by the bark people can identify their ash tree if their ash tree doesn't have leaves yet by early May. And then again, we're hitting on the treat and replace. And then going forward, it's pushing people to Inglewood Engage to encourage them to pinpoint their tree if they have it, doing a bug identification video, and then reinforcing tree to replace, a shout out to our local arborist, a neighborhood spotlight video talking, interviewing neighbors, talking about why they love their ash trees, why they want to keep them. Do they have a good memory with their tree? There is really some beautiful ash trees here in Inglewood. And then just continuing this message at least through August, but possibly into the fall as well. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I had a couple of questions. So I saw the EAB post on social media 2 weeks ago. That looked really good. It caught my eye. What kind of a response did you get from the city?
Yeah, we actually did get a really great response. We had a number of people thanking us that they are bringing aware to it. Someone mentioned that they really liked our slogan, which I think was a good sign. And it was majority positive from people thanking us that we were bringing this to their attention.
Carson, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
We can't hear you.
I was going to ask two things. No wonder I have a physical mute switch. I was missed on the roll as well. What is bang the table?
Yes, absolutely. I can chat about that. So Bang the Table is a community engagement platform. Longmont is another community that has it in the Denver area. And so it's a place where you're really asking for feedback directly from the community. And so let's see if I can share a different screen. Let me get it pulled up for you. I actually have it because I hang out there a lot.
Is it already available for us to go to?
Yes. So are you able to see this page now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is the Bang the Table Inglewood Engaged Emerald Ash Borer page. It is letting me do a couple more things because I'm an administrator. So please ignore if it starts editing. That's because I'm an administrator to it. So this is just it's a landing page similar to the website, but the biggest thing is people can subscribe for updates specific to the project that it is. And then also there's always someone listening. Dave is our listener for the EAB. And then it also has just some quick polls to get people engaged right away with this over in the right-hand corner. Have you heard of the Emerald Ash Borer? There's also, yes, the tracking map that we're encouraging people to pinpoint their ash tree. And then there's more photos for people to really be able to go through and see what the EAB is. But the biggest thing for it is to open up a better two-way communication with our neighborhoods and with our community.
Where do you access this on the Inglewood website? Is it available there?
That is a really good question.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the EAB site. And I tried that direct link you had up and it didn't load for me.
It didn't load. I thought it was on our spotlight, but it might have been moved from the spotlight. I can touch base with Lucia to see where it is living on our website. Oh, sorry. My goodness. I'm just blind. I can't see. So Okay, if you go to our website, the front page, and it says down where there's the buttons, and there's like meeting information,
Got it.
and then it says Inglewood Engaged Police Department Online Services. That's where you can find Inglewood Engaged. I'm
Got it.
so sorry. I should have, Lucia, I've recently updated that. It looks great.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to get there quickly.
Yeah, now I see it.
Awesome.
Probably have a link on the EAB page direct to the
Yeah.
EAB
I
bang the
thought there
table.
was, but I absolutely, that's a fantastic point that I will make sure that the Bang the Table is linked on the EAB page.
And then the other thing I wondered about is on your list of social media stuff, you don't mention Nextdoor. Are you going to be posting on there?
Yes. So
Okay.
anytime, it might have just been like a really brief. Yeah, that's just my fault for being too vague. Anytime it's posted on social media, we always post to Nextdoor as well. So
Okay, cool.
anytime it's social media, it is posted to Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, and Twitter.
Thank you. That was all my questions, Chair Bowden.
Thank you. Any other questions for Vanessa? I was just looking, you can subscribe for updates. Oh, already subscribed. Okay. Who is updating who responds to questions and sends out updates? Or is that automatically done when the page is changed?
Right now it's me,
Got it.
but it will be eventually Dave.
Got it. Okay.
He is signed up to do it. But for right now, as we kind of launch Bang the Table, we're just having the communications department monitor those for the time being, just to kind of get a feel for how much influx we'll have with it and how to move forward then.
Got it. Well, what I like is the focus on education and the consistency of the message across all the different platforms. It's certainly, I mean, when we first started this project, we were trying to figure out how to get the word out, and you guys have really stepped up to the table. No pun intended, but and put together a pretty comprehensive plan. Carson, you have your hand raised.
Sorry, I just never took it down.
Oh, that's cool. I just want to make sure I've got everybody. Well, it sounds like we don't have any other questions for you. Thank you, Vanessa, for agreeing to come and join us tonight and share what all the initiatives you guys have in place right now. So if there's no other questions, why don't we turn it back to Monica? Do you have any other communications updates?
Well, I sent in, I got a little bit of feedback on the article. I know that it's short and space was limited in the magazine this month. But as you can see, we're working on all fronts, and we just want that logo out there, and we want it to be, you know, on people's minds. So I did take the bit of feedback I got and I added some edits to the Slate folks who do the copywriting for the magazine. So hopefully those will make it in. So thank you for the feedback. And I just also really want to thank Vanessa and Chris and Dave Lee. They really have the toolkit to get this work done. We're just kind of conveying the sentiment and what we think the community needs, and they're awesome. I just want to say thank you. And you know, the whole process has been really a positive one for Julie and I. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we're really excited, and I'm excited to implement this plan and hopefully get the community on board.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Okay, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn us back to our agenda. And up next is our code enforcement significant events. So I'm recognizing Codes Manager Dave Lewis for any code enforcement updates.
Hey y'all, how's it going tonight?
Good.
Thanks for having me. I have a new computer and camera, so I'm still getting used to that. So first update is, as you know, we've been discussing the transition of reporting, and I'm very happy and excited to say that all of the code enforcement officials have been trained on the new RMS systems. And then officially on May 1st, we will be going to the same system that the police department will have. So I'll be able to close out the last couple months and present those statistics moving forward in the next couple months. I don't know what the RMS process is going to be for statistics. There is an upcoming training for supervisors that are in that role to learn how to provide or pull that data out and provide that information. So I look forward to having that information, and I appreciate your patience while the city works through this transition. The park ranger is really getting out there. You may have seen posts on Nextdoor as well as other social media fronts. We're just so excited that Ranger Hayden is working very well with the community. You've seen the Walter Wednesday posts. She's really taken an active role and ownership of our parks, and our community is really engaging with her. You may have seen Walter Wednesday today, where we had a delightful encounter in the last couple of weeks with a young resident who saw our park ranger out with her graspers picking up trash, and she wanted to help. And so she got a pair of her graspers and bucket and went around and picked up trash. And I couldn't have been more delighted to hear that people are seeing this positive change within our parks. All of the code enforcement officers this week are going through body camera training. The code enforcement division will be going to the body worn camera program, just like the police department. And we hope to have this implemented within the next 2 weeks. This will allow for us to utilize camera not only for our cases, but for training opportunities, and to also really work with the public to be a little bit more transparent with some of the conflicts and hostility that we've received recently. Also along the lines of training, code enforcement officers have all been trained in a series of de-escalation updates, similar to what the police department has gone through. And so I'm very excited that we have completed that, as well as our annual zoonosis training. Zoonosis is very important because that is the process in which disease is transmitted between animals and humans, and vice versa. And so we received a tremendous amount of updates, not just on COVID, but related to rabies transmissions within the state, as well as some of those other diseases like West Nile, which we did forget about over the last year, and flu transmissions, and how those may jump between animals and humans and what that may look like. We also talked about a few rare diseases, one that's affecting bats, called the white nose fungus. Fortunately, we don't have that currently in Colorado, but it does affect our wild bat populations, severely debilitating them, as well as a few other diseases such as bubonic plague, and a few other things that we do find here within Colorado that have the potential to be found here in Inglewood. So we really wanted to make sure that we were updated on those. And last year that update did take a backseat due to the pandemic. I was going to touch briefly on the Oshley survey results. They did come back and they are being presented to council on the 26th. I'm going to hold off on presenting that because I believe Monica was going to give a little bit more detailed information on that and the off-leash task force moving forward. Was there any questions that I could answer on any of those items?
Carson, is your hand raised?
Yeah. Hi, Code Manager Lewis.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the body cam program?
So the body camera program, if you're aware, the Senate, Colorado Senate bill was passed unanimously. Code enforcement does not need to comply with the Senate bill, but City Council approved unanimously to move forward with the body camera program in conjunction. And this is 2 years earlier than it's required by the Senate bill, that all law enforcement officers within the city of Inglewood will have dash cameras and body cameras starting Monday. Code enforcement was added at a later date, and our cameras are back ordered because the entire state of Colorado is having to comply with this ordinance. So when we come in contact with the public, specifically when we're investigating allegations or we're coming in contact with the public, we are activating our body-worn cameras, and that information is recorded and uploaded to all of our cases, including inspections, dog attacks, park enforcement. All of that will be uploaded.
So it's a manual turn it on system?
All of them are manual unless within the vehicle there are certain triggers, such as activating lights. This doesn't apply to code enforcement for the law enforcement officers. Anytime you remove a weapon from your gun rack or when you go over a certain speed limit, it's automatically activated.
Oh, interesting. And then wasn't part of the Senate bill that becomes available to the public? How is Inglewood handling that?
I'm not able to comment on that policy yet because the full policy is still being drafted.
Oh, okay.
The way there are certain exceptions, and you have to read through this very long bill. There's quite a few exceptions as to what can and cannot be released. So that's something that the city is still working through with the soon-to-be new city attorney.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm really interested in this bat disease. What's the closest it's been detected?
So they're actually doing a very unique study. They think our bats might actually be immune to this bat disease. It has been found in New Mexico. It's really rampant in the East Coast. So they're doing some specialized studies. It's very fascinating the way disease is transmitted. They've also found that our unique fact that I found out this week, that our bat population, they've been trying to inoculate them with high doses of COVID, and it turns out that our bat population in Colorado and parts of the West are immune to coronavirus. This particular strain of coronavirus that's infecting the human population. Coronavirus has been around for a very long time in most of our animal populations. It's just this is the first time it's jumped from animals to humans, similar to the swine flu. I don't want to compare the two, but when it jumps from animal to human and the mutations, that's kind of how it happened.
Thank you.
Cara, you had your hand raised?
I did, yes. I just wanted to ask, you had mentioned that you were experiencing a lot of hostilities and confrontations lately, and I'm just wondering if you can sort of elaborate and talk more about that.
Some of the situations that we're experiencing come from a select known group of people within the community who have consistently been hostile. And this typically deals with enforcement of park rules, park regulations, where we're now being verbally harassed to the point that we have to call police officers to come and assist us for our own safety in order to issue summons at some of our parks. Cara, this actually leads me to another topic, a very difficult conversation that I'd like to inform you all of. That it's been brought to the city's attention that, and I hope this isn't the case, that potentially people that are involved with this appointed organization may be attempting to undermine the authority of code enforcement, and have been maybe expressing some opinions, but maybe acting as a person that's on this panel, and making comments about cases that are not factual, maybe undermining our authority by stating opinions rather than facts as to what code can and cannot do, and what our responsibilities are defined in ordinance. And we play a very vital role here in the city of Inglewood. And I'm concerned that this type of rhetoric or conversations with the public, and these are very intimate conversations with the public, may be potentially putting code enforcement officers' safety in jeopardy. I'm concerned at the hostility that has come from a few citizens, to the point that I would hate that the integrity of this body could potentially be jeopardized because people are spreading misinformation or lies or rumors. And city staff has been challenged by the city manager to discourage and to counter any misinformation that may be out there with truth and facts. And as I've said, with these hostility that's coming forward and the unnecessary conversations, I really am concerned for the safety of our code officers and how this may potentially hurt one of us. And hopefully it never comes to this, one of our officers gets killed.
Monica?
I actually think I've encountered your team in one of these situations recently. Just a week or two ago, maybe. I was walking my dog and came across a citizen who, with some dogs, that was, and there were several police officers. And I was honestly, I was shocked, and I felt, and the person who, with the dogs that was interacting with these police officers was pretty hostile. I was only there for a short while as I walked past. The police officers were very friendly to me and let me know that it was safe to pass. But it wasn't, but I just want to let you know that I firsthand seen citizens acting in this way towards your team, and to the point where police officers had to get involved. And that's extremely disconcerting that your officers would be put in jeopardy when the entire reason for you to be here is to keep us safe. So anything that this committee can do to support you, I think the body cameras are going to be a great step forward, but it's just, I mean, honestly, we volunteer our time to be on this committee because we care about the health and safety of our town, and we want to improve it and improve your ability to do your very important work. So I am just flabbergasted to hear that anybody associated with this team would be a part of aiding and abetting that kind of safety hazard in our community.
Colleen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, they do something about that? It says I'm Maureen Willis.
We know it's you. We can see you.
Okay. Has any threats been made to any of you?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that, Colleen.
Well, I understand that criticism and slings and arrows come with the territory. I've been in that position myself. Many times over the years I've served on this committee and speaking before council. And I endeavor always to honor the position and with grace and dignity. I feel this is an honor to be on this committee. And it requires you handle it with grace and dignity. And I think that our police officers, our code enforcement officers, and our park rangers should also feel honored to be in the position and handle their position with grace and dignity. And I don't know to what you're referring, because I don't believe any person on this panel would pass out misinformation.
I concur with that, and I want to remind all the committee members of our bylaws. Allow me to read item number C under section 5 that says the responsibilities of the committee shall not extend to directing or interfering with the work of any officer or employee under the city manager, either publicly or privately. And in order to enforce that bylaw, I will need some more information. Dave, Manager Lewis, are you able to share with me privately if we have a committee that is violating that bylaw, a committee member that is violating that bylaw?
I think moving forward, yes, I can provide that information. I think in this circumstance, I wanted to bring this to the attention of this committee that this was brought forward as an allegation. It was very concerning because I think this body is doing such great work that I would hate to see the integrity of this group go back into a dark area where it was in the past. So I think just reminding everyone, from my standpoint, reminding everybody that this is what's occurring. I don't know if this is a contributing factor to the hostility that we've received, but I can assure, based off of Callie's conversation that she just had, that every single code enforcement official has sworn an oath to uphold this Constitution and to uphold the charters and the Constitution of Colorado, and every single code officer to their core upholds those and believes and takes this trust that the public has given us to the highest level of their integrity. To compromise our ethics or the way that we operate, or to question our ethical values, really undermines what city officials do for this city on a day in and day out basis. Code enforcement officials, just like police officers or any city officials, do not have to endure harassment, threats, hostility, or non-compliance in any fashion. It is not a requirement of this job. And when at any time we feel that our safety is in jeopardy, we will contact the police department and additional charges will be filed against those individuals. And I will make sure that that is prosecuted to the fullest extent.
I will also commit to you that we will enforce the bylaws of this committee, and everybody that's on the committee had a part in developing and approving these bylaws. So I would like to be kept abreast of this. And if I do learn of any committee member that is violating the bylaws, then I will bring it to the committee to have that member removed. I want to make sure that everybody that's on this committee is a supporter of code enforcement and the role that they play in making sure our city is safe and healthy. So I just want to make that commitment to you, Manager Lewis, and your staff. And then Carson, you had your hand raised first, unless that's left over.
Thank you. Code Manager Lewis, I'm sorry to hear about these struggles, and I'm sure there's sensitivity around details, but can you tell us anything, like generally, like what park rules or regulations people are having an issue with, or what the high level topic that, or is there a common high level topic that you guys are running into this stuff about?
No, because some of the hostility that's coming towards us is not even when we're doing an enforcement action. We may be just at a park observing and making sure that things are safe. We're sitting in the parks doing our reports, and we're being confronted hostilely and argumentatively by members of the public. So it's not always during an enforcement action. It's just for simply being in a park.
Crazy. All right. I'm sorry to hear that that's happening. Thank you for what you do.
Colleen, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I wasn't really finished with my comments. Even as a member of this board, I'm still a citizen. And I'm wondering if my position is, and I'm very honored to be here and serve the community. And some people don't like the way I do it, and I still try to rise above that. But are you saying that your officers never make a mistake? They never react with anger or a little hostility of their own? Or is it not the right of the citizen to protest what they feel is being done to them without, are you above criticism? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be or should be criticized, but I'm thinking it comes with the territory. We all can make mistakes, no matter how much training we've got. And as citizens, and serving on this committee, I try to rise above the criticism I get and not get in the weeds and, well, you did such and such, so I'll do this. But I would have to say, as a citizen that's had sometimes not necessarily great encounters with other members of staff, that I do try very hard to rise above any criticisms directed to me from them. And so is it not the right of the people to object to maybe something you've done? They don't agree with what you've done or said to them. Is that necessarily hostility, or is it actually threatening you in any way?
I'm going to bring this conversation back to our committee members, because we're talking about the behavior of committee members and whether that's within our bylaws. And regardless of the role of code enforcement, I want to make sure that the committee members that are on this team understand our role, support code enforcement, and comply with our bylaws.
Well, does that mean we can't criticize if we see something wrong, or we can't make suggestions?
I guess the responsibilities shall not extend to directing or interfering the work of any officer or employee, either publicly or privately. So in this case, Colleen, I think the answer is no. As long as you're on this committee, that is not welcome.
We have in our bylaws and in our enabling legislation to review the processes and procedures of code enforcement and make suggestions. If we get a whole bunch of citizens say, we are being mistreated or harassed, or we have this complaint, is it not our right to look into it and take that in? Are we going to deny the citizens that?
As a committee, yes, that is certainly something the committee would embark on.
Chair Bowden.
Yes.
I would actually like to curtail this discussion at this point, because if there is anything, if somebody on this committee has threatened, it is not the job of this committee to remove that person. If they have committed a crime, that crime needs to be investigated. And I think that there have been some very serious allegations here. And I think that us talking about this is probably not productive to any one of us, because all of us are sitting here wondering who it is. But at this point, I really do believe that we have a great police department, we have a great code enforcement department, and I do believe that they can get to the bottom of it. So I think that we need to be careful right now until there is actual proof that a crime has been committed. And this is more, in my view of how things are going, it seems to be more, if there is hostility and the danger of a code enforcement or anyone's life being in danger, that is a crime. And that needs to be handled by the police department. So I think it might be wise to move on from this discussion, although I will leave it up to the board. But thank you for listening.
Monica, you had your hand up. Oh. Monica, did you have your hand up?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Just quickly, I wanted to take the opportunity to point positive a little bit here. And what we're really talking about, the bottom line is that Director Lewis, or Manager Lewis, and his team are having difficulty with compliance and behaviors from the public. And something we can do about this is, as our job as educators to the public. And I would just like to say that maybe going forward, this can be a communications topic that we prioritize to help citizens understand more fully what the facts are and the jurisdiction of the code enforcement officers, and so that we don't have these misconceptions in the public going forward. So.
Okay, thank you. Further comments? Sonia.
Well, on a lighter note, last week was Code Enforcement Appreciation Week for the state.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was on Marlon Prelis's Facebook page. He's our first gentleman. And I was like, well, that's a good thing to bring up. It was, and so last week was Code Enforcement Appreciation, and we do appreciate code enforcement for us having safe, clean, well-run neighborhoods where we can all enjoy them. So I just wanted to say congratulations, and we do appreciate you. And
Thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing that up. This was Animal Control Officer Week. The city has chosen to typically celebrate that in June. They did a proclamation last year during the Code Enforcement Week because we didn't want to undermine. This is also our communications division appreciation week. So all those dispatchers and stuff, and we really want to highlight what they're doing and not conflict with their appreciation week. So I appreciate you recognizing us and the hard work. I happen to know the governor and the first gentleman have attended functions with them in the past, and I really greatly appreciate the fact that you are bringing that attention to us.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. If there's no further questions of Manager Lewis, I did want to share an experience that I had over the past month, and if I get choked up, it's because it's upsetting. I wanted to thank our Code Enforcement Division. As you know, in the past, we have spent a lot of time on the dangerous dog ordinance. And I believe we have 8 dangerous dogs in the city of Inglewood. And I was walking my 12-year-old Golden on the street, on the sidewalk, and a pit bull ran out of a house and attacked me and my dog. She was badly hurt. She's not critically hurt, but she has several bites along the back. I was knocked down, and it took 2 of us to get the dog off of my dog. And I rushed her to the vet and got her care. But the temptation is when something like that happens is to use your position, to get things to happen. And I decided to follow the process and see how the process worked. And I wanted to share my experience. First off, I was thankful to have someone to talk to and understand, what happens when you have been attacked by a dangerous dog. And what happened is the owner had to go to court, and the owner did plead guilty, and we will now have our 9th dangerous dog in the city. There is a gap in our processes between the time of the attack and the time she goes to her next court hearing where she's sentenced. That's in June. The dog is free to stay in residence. And I felt the need to warn my neighbors who walk their children and their dogs on Grant Street. So I posted on Nextdoor, but there's this gap between the time of the attack and the time of the sentencing where the dog is allowed to stay in residence, and there's nothing we can basically do to protect others from the same thing happening to them. But the process ultimately does work, and that the best case scenario is going to happen where the owner, if she chooses to keep the dog, can keep the dog, and at the same time the residents will be protected from a dangerous dog and having an attack happen and possibly kill to somebody else. So thank you for listening. Okay, so moving on to our next agenda item is update from City Council Member Rita Russell.
Thank you very much, Chair Bowden, and I'm really sorry to hear about your experience. I know that makes it really difficult, and I think it's you know, when it happens to someone on the board, and I do think that when things like that happen, it's an opportunity to reevaluate. I know the process works, but it is possible that maybe the committee does need to reevaluate some things and how to do things. I know that my daughter had a dog that attacked a neighbor dog when the dog was at our house, and somebody had given her the dog. And I said to her, why did these people give you the dog? Because I think probably the dog had that problem. And it was a hard thing to do, but you know, the responsible thing that we did. And I told my daughter, we need to put the dog down, because if a child got killed, it would be awful. And it's awful when a dog is damaged too. So I'm really sorry. But your dog is on the mend?
She is. She's a little bald. They had to shave the top of her for all the different puncture wounds that she had. But yeah, she's lost her personality for a couple of weeks, but she's back in full form. But it was pretty traumatizing to not be able to protect someone you love.
Right. Absolutely. And it's kind of dangerous for you too.
I was very lucky that he did not turn on me.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I have a couple of things. City Council, this last Monday did the final interviews. The final interviews for a new city attorney were actually done in public. So there is consensus to move forward with one of them and to make an offer. So we should know fairly soon who the new city attorney will be. And I'm thinking it will be probably at least a month before the city attorney comes on board. Because they need to give notice. So and I'm really excited about this. So it will be very helpful with us and maybe some of the things that we're moving forward with too, code enforcement committee moving forward with. But and then I just have one other thing about the agenda packets. And the only reason that I'm bringing this up is because on City Council, the packet actually comes out on Thursday before the meeting. And so the public has an opportunity to look at the packet and see all the information that the council has. It is really just an openness and transparency thing. And so I guess I'm wondering, like when I was reading the packet here, a couple of the items that you included to the committee were in the draft minutes of the previous minutes, so they were there. Is it possible, and maybe for the recording secretary to attach on the agenda itself the same things that you attached for the board to see? Do you know what I'm saying? So that's something I'd like for you to consider.
Absolutely. And upon reflection, I think it had been much better if I just didn't distribute the information and I just dropped it on the committee during our meeting, because we're not actually enacting or voting or doing anything. What we did is we consolidated several documents that we had been discussing for the past year into one place. So there was nothing new in there. It was just a consolidation. And I didn't really need to send it to everybody before the meeting. I just thought it would be helpful. And now I've learned, I now know that I shouldn't do that.
Okay, well, and I'm not discouraging you about doing that, but it's just, it's helpful if the public themselves know too, even though we're not voting on anything at a city council meeting, all this, or at a study session, the city council packet gets posted for the public to see. It's all about just the public getting information. And so there was really nothing wrong with that. It would be the same problem if you brought it forward tonight, and it just would be better if it got put on the agenda itself.
The materials that were sent out were on the agenda. I just, like I said,
the agenda that I got, and I got the one that came out last Friday, it just has 4 code enforcement significant updates, update from city council in my name, and then it has the communications subcommittee, and then it has unfinished business, review and discuss proposed changes to tree and shrub code, review and discuss proposed recommendation programs to assist residents, and then next steps. So it's all, and I know that definitely those two things that are there on A and B in the agenda were actually in the draft minutes from the previous meeting. So if maybe those could have just been put under those 2 steps and the link. But there's one other thing in the attachments that you sent that isn't on the agenda at all. New business A, there's nothing there. So is there another agenda that came out? Did I not get the correct agenda?
no, you got the correct agenda.
I think the recording secretary is raising her hand.
Brain, sorry.
Yeah, if I would have attached the 2 items that were attached to the minutes that were on this agenda, then they'd be on there 4 times. Each one would be on there twice, because they are already attached to the minutes. So if I attached them to these 2 spaces here, they would have been on there again. So it would have been a duplication of the information that was already there. And once an agenda is posted, that is a legal agenda. It's not like I can go in there and change anything, because it's been posted for the public. It's been posted on the website. So the agenda that was posted on Friday, the agenda and the packet that was sent to you guys all via email, the publication on the website and notification to all the subscribers is exactly the same. You all have the same information.
Okay, so the public, now I'm agreeing with what you're saying in the fact that it is in the draft minutes on the Inglewood Ash Board. Those things are in the draft minutes. The other thing, which was about, I wrote that down, tree and, hang on just a second. The one, proposals for tree, shrub, and code changes.
I received those yesterday when everybody else received them.
Right, I understand that.
So if you guys would talk about them today, if you brought all this up today and discussed it, and then I would put it on the agenda, or not on the agenda, because you can't actually change a posted agenda. They would have to be attached to the minutes.
Right, I'm not asking you to change the proposed agenda. So I just was asking the chair to make sure that the information gets on the agenda in the future.
Yeah, and I think you know, my call to action here is that we weren't going to review and discuss that today because it's too complicated. I was going to share what I had done in terms of consolidating all of our ideas into one document, and then the members were going to have to spend the next month reviewing it. So
okay.
I could have easily not sent them out yesterday and just dropped them on the members today, and the end result is the same.
Okay.
So in the future, I won't send it out in advance.
Okay, but so the bottom line is it's going to be that one thing is going to be on the agenda next month.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. That cleared up the misunderstanding. So everything else is on the agenda in the fact that it was in the draft minutes. So, all right, thank you so much. I do appreciate this committee. I do appreciate all that you're doing. And so thank you so much. And it's a privilege for me to be the liaison to this committee. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cara, you had your hand raised?
I did, but my question was answered, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Colleen?
Yeah, just as a follow-up to what Rita said, I think my problem was with the agenda itself, where it said in A, review and discuss code changes. And then, of course, that one document wasn't in the packet. So if we just change the agenda verbally now, orally now, and say, we're not doing that, I have no more problem. Otherwise, I would have to object to discussing it, because we can't participate in a discussion on what has not properly been notified to the public.
There's nothing new that we're discussing. We have been discussing all of this for the past year. The only thing that was done is all of our ideas were consolidated into one document.
I have some objections to that I don't think is the appropriate time to discuss it now. But if we're going to discuss it, I would have to object, because the public has not been noticed of what is in that document that you sent on Tuesday.
Yes, they have. It's in several different places, and it's been in several different minutes over the past year. Maureen?
Yes, review and discuss proposed changes to tree shrub code is legal notification to the public. You're legally notifying the public that you may not even get to that item. But if you did get to it, you're going to review and discuss proposed changes to tree and shrub code. That is legal notification. I'm still talking. That is legal notification to the public. If there is an attachment, that's great, because then they get to read the attachment. But the attachment is not the notification to the public. The statement on the agenda is notification to the public.
Are you saying that Allison McKinney Brown didn't know what she was talking about? Because I have the email.
Cohen, nobody knows what you're talking about.
No, they do. Allison, she knows because she got it. On August 30th, 2017, Allison McKinney Brown shut down our meeting because there hadn't been sufficient notice to the public. And she said you could go ahead and meet the public, hear the public forum, but you couldn't discuss anything about couldn't take any formal action, couldn't discuss anything. And she went on to say, and I sent it out, and I can send it to everybody. And but at any rate, she went on to say that because there was no formal meeting packet being created, that she was directing the committee to put all of the meeting materials in the packet at the time the notice was posted. And that one document isn't there.
It doesn't.
And it's not attached to the agenda.
It doesn't need to be there. Because
according to Allison McKinney Brown, it does.
No, it's not in our bylaws. It's not in the committee handbook. That's not what it says. Cara?
Well, I know.
Cara, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea what you are talking about right now, and I don't see how it is relevant to the task at hand. This seems extremely counterproductive to why we were all here. And honestly, I feel like I'm wasting my time right now.
Understood. Carson, you had your hand raised?
I mean, I've read all the emails. I understand some confusion. Is there, Chair Bowden, was this document that I mean, I get what you're saying, that it's just a combination of things that have been in previous packets, right?
Right. So at our last meeting, I told you all that I would compile all the documents into one place for the committee to look at. And that's what was done. And the goal today was for me to share that with you and look at it. It's pretty extensive. So there's no way we're going to be able to resolve anything today. It was just me presenting that combined document to the committee, which I was going to share with you today. And I thought it would be helpful to send it out in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it intentional to not have that document become part of the packet?
No, because I spent days on it. I didn't finish it until yesterday.
Oh, so it was just, okay. And then your plan was to have it be in the next packet?
Yes, because we'll
Understood.
discuss it at our next meeting, but we don't have enough time to go in depth. It's way too complicated to review during our meeting.
Understood. Thank you. I mean, I just agree that all documents should end up in the packet. I understand the timing situation on this one. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and in reality, if I could do it again, there would be no document. I would just present it to you during the meeting, and then it would be in the meeting minutes. Dave, you have your hand raised? Manager Lewis?
Sorry, I was a part of that meeting that was canceled, and the reason it was canceled was because the notice wasn't placed in the appropriate location within 24 hours.
Right.
And a vote was going to be taking place on that particular agenda item. So therefore the discussion took place without the vote, but I don't think you guys are voting on anything. And I believe it's the prerogative of the chair to add and change things for discussion.
Okay. Colleen, you have your hand raised again.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, I can send you that email, but she was very specific that we couldn't participate in a discussion on anything like proposed changes to a code unless the public was fully informed, and they had it in the packet.
And what you're saying is misleading to the rest of the committee because the agenda was not posted in enough time. And in this case, our agenda was posted in well enough time. So that's misleading to tell the committee that.
No, I don't believe so, because it says revisions to 11.5 tree shrub code and 11.6 unified code development. And there's stuff in here that I've never seen before. And it's not misleading.
I completely disagree with you. Every single thing in that document came from another document. And that was the whole purpose of the exercise. And just because you say it doesn't mean it's not true. Or doesn't mean it is true. So
I'm just taking what the city attorney said.
Okay, well, that was 4 years ago, and it was a completely different scenario because the agenda was not posted in enough time.
That wasn't the only thing she said.
Enough. Are there any other questions before we move forward to unfinished business? Okay, so next on the agenda item is unfinished business, and I wanted to move an update on the off-leash task force. Monica is a member of the off-leash task force because she's a committee member of this committee and also of Parks. So she was a natural person to have represent us on that committee. And I believe you all have reached a critical point that you wanted to share the update.
Yeah, I have a question for Maureen. I'm just very nervous now about what I'm allowed to share and what I'm not and when. I have a copy of the survey results that Parks and Rec received.
Those will be included in the minutes, Monica. I'm
sorry?
Those will be included in our minutes.
Dave has his hand up. So maybe Dave, Dave, can you help me here?
Yes. So I'm really excited to share the survey results just like Monica is, because we've been waiting for it, but because it has not been officially presented to council and this was a subcommittee, maybe we should hold off to present this to the findings of the survey until council has an opportunity to discuss it or receive the formal presentation on Monday.
Got it.
Okay, yeah, and that's happening soon. It's April 26th, right?
Monday.
That this will be presented with recommendations. I just want to say, this is important to our team to be aware of. So if you can be present for that, please do. And it is an ongoing thing. It's positive. It's voices are getting heard. So,
Well, great. So that's the update, is the survey results are in, it's
They're
being
in.
presented to the council. That's great. And is it being done at the regular city council meeting, or is it an executive session, or?
It'll be done as part of their Monday, I don't know if it's a study set, they're all done as a special meeting right now because it's Zoom, but the survey company will be coming forward to present the results of the survey. And it will be in, if you want to get a sneak preview, the presentation, I believe, will be in the council member packet that is released on Thursday. So you'll be able to review those ahead of the council presentation.
Great.
I think Councilmember Russell has her hand up.
Yes, Councilmember Russell.
Thank you. It's Monday's meeting is normally a study session. I believe it's going to be a special meeting because there may be we may be voting on the city attorney situation. So so it will probably be declared a special meeting, so that could take place. But other than that, it'll be presented really under the study session portion of it.
Okay. Was there anybody else that had their hand raised? Okay, no, okay. All right, well, thank you, Monica, and thank you for representing us on that committee. I'm anxious to see the results. All right, so next we'll go back into EAB. And at our last meeting, what we had done is we identified what the needs of the citizens were in terms of preparing and addressing an EAB infestation, also what the needs of the city are in terms of protecting the city, and then also code enforcement because they have to enforce what the code is. So we had a lot of ideas that I've been capturing as we've gone along, and we also had through the past year had suggestions not only from the city attorney but from others on the committee in terms of recommended changes to the code and or programs. So what I did is I consolidated all of those into one document, and it is extremely complicated because there's actually two different things that we're looking at. We're looking at changes to code, and we're also looking at programs or resolutions that we would recommend that the city investigate. So I created two documents to address those. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and because I want to at least show you what I've done. We don't have time to go through this in detail in this one meeting. Plus, I would like committee members to spend some time with it and look at it. And then at our next meeting in May, we go through this in detail. So give me a second here. All right. Share screen. Screen two. All right, I'm going to do one page. Are you all seeing my screen yet?
Yeah, we do now.
Okay, so again, I cut and paste from documents that we've prepared or that we've gathered throughout the past year. All of those documents are available on the Google Drive that I've shared with you, the link. And if you don't have that, let me know and I'll be happy to resend that to you. So I just want to walk you through the format of this document. So what I listed here is what we identified as key issues for code. And again, that's out of the Word document that was in our minutes from the last meeting. And then from there, did a summary of code changes, because as you know, it's not our job to write code, it's our job to identify gaps and or suggestions to code. So I summarized those here, and then if you go down a couple of pages, the actual content, in this case, the city attorney recommended that we establish a section for authority. Many of their code sections have authority, and that was not existing for trees and shrubs. So she provided us with the content. So I pulled that out and just attached it to the back end of this document. Same thing for definitions. She recommended that we add and or change some definitions. Also, we wanted to protect trees in the right of way, and that came from her document too. Then preservation and removal procedures and violations of code and licensing requirements. So my ask of you all is to look through these changes and see, is there anything else that we want to consider? Do we want to add these things? Am I missing something? So the purpose today is not to review, it's just for me to share what I did and ask you all to review this document and be prepared to discuss it at our May meeting. Carson, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so in the code part, I'm hearing echo from somebody. In the code part, is what of the code part is existing code and what of it is brand new suggested code? That's not clear to me.
Got it. Okay, I can fix that. So
then,
in some cases, add a purpose, establish an authority section, add or modify definitions. I tried to clarify that. Obviously, protect trees and right of way. She's rewriting that, but I can fix that to show what's new and or what is being rewritten.
Yeah, I mean, since you're consolidating, it would definitely be easier for me to consume if I could see like what's existing and then what the suggested changes, you know, both in one place, whether it's through like track changes or however makes it, whatever's easiest for you. Okay. And then I had one specific question on the first list. What is enforced use of arborists in regard to?
That was one of our ideas in terms of code. Up until recently, we didn't have a current list of arborists on the website. So it was really hard to force people to use a licensed arborist when we didn't provide a current list of arborists. So the idea was, let's get that list updated and make sure we license them.
So it's not about whether someone has to use an arborist or not. It's about enforcing who is a legal arborist?
It's about having an updated list of arborists that people can call on. It's hard to enforce when we don't provide who the arborists are.
So what is the enforcement aspect? Is the suggestion that a citizen not be able to do their own work on their own trees, that we're going to require them to hire an arborist? Or
I think we talked about it at their last meeting, and the answer was you're able, if that if you do use a tree provider, they have to be a licensed arborist by the city of Inglewood.
But not to prevent you from doing your own work on your own trees.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, it's good. These are good questions. It's very complicated, and like I said, it took me forever to pull all this together and all the different ideas that came from the team into one document. So
I'm sure. Thank you for your work on it.
So I expect a lot of questions and challenges. So that's fine. Dave, I know you had your hand raised.
I was just going to clarify that, but you are correct. This current ordinance requires that a citizen hire a city licensed arborist to perform the work, or the homeowner may conduct the work themselves.
Great. Thank you. Colleen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I appreciate all the hard work you did. And there were so many documents floating around. I think there was some confusion because most of this on the revisions isn't what the city attorney sent us. It includes the edits that Al Giusti did that we never voted on and never agreed to. There were only two changes on the identification, the definitions, and that was park trees and street trees. All the rest of these came from Al Giusti's, and I think it just it wasn't read anymore, and you just assumed it was all. But at any rate, most of this is not from the city attorney. The only one that is the protect trees and right of way, 11-5-5, and there's some questions I have on whether we want to go with that or not. The authority, that was not in her changes.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I downloaded what Maureen sent us, and I didn't see it there.
Okay, well, that came from the city attorney. I'll be happy to share the document that it came from. I would appreciate that. But the other point on that is that if we're going to reestablish the forester, the city forester, the community forestry department, they are going to have the authority. And we've got two codes that related to that were, they're still reserved, but they say we eliminated this. So the authority, the way it's done here, is going to be pointless because the city manager and code enforcement won't be doing that. It'll be the city. They'll have the authority in the jurisdiction. Okay, so I didn't want to go do a detailed review tonight because there is so much material for everyone to review. I just wanted to share what I did and where it all came from so that you all could sit down and review it. And if you wouldn't mind holding on to those ideas and thoughts and share those with us in May.
Well, I'd be happy to send you what I know because that license required thing was from Al Giusti. It wasn't from the city attorney.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. The other document, as I said, there's two pieces of it. There's what can we do in code to shore up, our processes for trees and shrubs and with the EAB. And then there's also, we had ideas in terms of programs or resolutions that I once again did the same thing. I consolidated all of our comments into one place, and I wanted you all to look through that. And there's an opportunity, I think, to consolidate even further because we had the same idea in multiple places. A lot of the things that we identified early on, like communications and having resources at the city, have already been taken place. They've already been put in place, like the communications department, and then we've now got a website, and then there's also an email notification system. So a lot of things have been put in place, but there's other things that we've talked about that when we do, or if we do propose changes to code, at the same time, we can also recommend to City Council to consider some of these other programs that we've discussed. Is that clear as mud?
Yep. But I'll try to figure it out.
Does anybody else have any questions? And that's really all I wanted to do with this tonight, because it is so complicated, is just present this to you and ask you to look this through before our May meeting, and then come prepared to decide what we want to move forward with this. And then, at that point, we may be voting on whether we want to take something forward to City Council. Further comments or questions? Monica?
I just want to say thank you. You spend a lot of time and energy on this, and it's just awesome. Thank you.
I struggled with this because there were so many ideas, and instead of, making a decision, I just compiled everything into one place so that the team could look at it together and make a decision as a committee. So I didn't go through and make those calls. I just put everything in one place for you all.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Budden. It definitely makes sense, and it's going to be helpful for sorting all this out.
It is. It's a lot. So with that, is there any new business that anyone would like to bring up for tonight? No? Okay. So at this point, why don't we go ahead and schedule our next meeting for May, which I can't believe I'm even saying that word. So that would be May 19th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Got it. And then in terms of topics, I would like to put EAB on there to go through these documents. Is there any other suggestions for topics for our next meeting? Monica.
I'd like to talk about if you guys can bring your secondary topics for communications to the committee. Of course, EAB is our #1 priority, but I think there's 2 really great topics off the top of my head, which are educating the public about code enforcement, the importance of code enforcement and code enforcement compliance, and also this issue with animal code around dogs specifically. I think those are things we haven't really visited since I've been on the committee. So, but it just is so incredibly helpful when you guys respond, and just, every thought is important. So I just would like to talk about that more from, just get your feedback.
Okay. Any other topics for May's meeting? All right. So with that,
Julie,
yes.
Monica, can I clarify, you want dangerous dogs, education of public regarding the role of code enforcement under communications or under new business?
Oh, well, if I have a standing thing, if it goes there, that's fine. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this.
Then I'll go ahead and do the education of public regarding the role of code enforcement under communications, maybe?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then the dangerous dogs under new business.
Yeah, and I guess what I really want to say is I appreciate if anybody on this committee would, sorry about my dog, just email me with your thoughts. It's just so helpful. I know, a lot of you have, everybody brings their own experience, and some of you have lived here longer than me, and yeah, that's all.
Real quick, I do have a topic, and this came through in my conversations with code enforcement as I was dealing with my issue, is the reluctance of people to report dog attacks is our big issue. And in my case, she did not want me to report the dog attack because she didn't want the impact. She didn't want to feel the impact. And I went ahead and did it because I wanted to make sure that nobody else would ever be hurt by her dog again. But I'm sure that this happens a lot. People are so reluctant to report things that happen because they don't want to ruin their relationship with the neighbor. So anyway, if we could put that down as one idea. Maureen?
Julie? Yes. So I'll put down reporting of dog attacks, and I'll put a dash public responsibility under new business.
And communications.
Under communications?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Colleen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm sorry that happened to you. And it's just like if you have an auto accident and you're not at fault, and they say, oh, don't report it to your insurance company, I'll just give you some money. You have to.
Exactly what happened. Yeah.
You have to call the cops. We had a situation out here at 10 cop cars yesterday, yesterday, I think it was. Anyway, it was all over the place. And I finally sorted it all out, and they arrested the two guys, and they'd gone through like 7 backyards, and it was a real bad scene, but it was only because the guy that got hit followed these guys and called the police and kept directing them. And then all the neighbors got together and cornered the guy, and the police were able to get him. So I want to thank you for reporting it.
The harder thing to do, actually. Okay, well, with that, I think, we have one more agenda item, and that is committee members' choice. That is where we can each bring something up that wasn't on the agenda, that we want to, something positive that we want to say. Carson?
I was just going to offer my sympathies about your situation as well.
Oh,
And
thanks.
yeah, that's scary. And I'm glad you didn't get hurt. And I'm glad your dog's doing all right.
Yeah. I think I lost a friend though for turning her in.
And that's the primary reason that you know of why people don't report, is worrying about interpersonal.
Yep, the relationship with their neighbors.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
understand. That's a difficult thing to navigate. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It is. Monica.
I just want to reiterate what Sonia said and recognize Manager Lewis and his team for their work on animal control. You know, this is all the same thing. They keep us safe. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Colleen?
Yeah, I've just about lost track of, and now I remember what I was going to say. I'm very grateful to say that I have not had any interaction with anybody, not police, not code enforcement, not park ranger. I've never seen them around when I've been out with my dog. And but apparently they're doing a good job, though a lot of people are complaining about the job they're doing. So I don't know exactly what to do about that, but I have not had any direct contact with any of these people. So I can say, as far as I know, they're doing a good job.
Code Manager Lewis?
I just wanted to thank all of you for the hard work and dedication that you bring forward to this committee each and every month, and all the conversations you have. I don't think I express how much I appreciate each of you enough. As citizens, and I know Rita Russell, Councilmember Russell, really does appreciate all the citizens that sit in on these committees. I hear her talk about it. Your selfless action to come forward and hear difficult things and have difficult conversations and even share your experiences really speaks volumes as to how much each of you truly does care about your community. I take everything you all say back to my team, and every time you guys have a meeting, we staff and have conversations about how we can change some of the things that we do here on our side and what we can do to make your jobs easier and our community easier. And lastly, Julie, my heart goes out to you. I wish I was here. I was out of the country when this occurred and my team notified me. I do want to share more information as to why people don't report dog attacks, but I'm so thankful that you brought your story forward. You're willing to share your trust in this committee, to share your experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's difficult to share those things, and I really appreciate you as a chair. So thank you.
Thank you. And I have to reiterate the code enforcement or animal control officer that helped me. Her name was Tracy. I was so thankful to have that resource, and she really led me through the whole process. And ultimately, it turned out to be a win-win situation for everybody. So, and if it hadn't been for her guidance, I don't know what I would have done. So, all right. Well, is anybody else? All right, everybody. Thanks for your attention and your hard work and your feedback. I appreciate it. Have a good evening, rest of your evening. Bye.
Thank you, you too.
Have a great evening. Thank you all.
Bye.